Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and there's a new Rina Kent book coming out, which I'm very excited to read that book. Of course, I'm talking about Hunt the Villain. Unfortunately, I will not be able to read that book as soon as it comes out because I'm on vacation, but I will have a vlog for you ready the next week. So hopefully you can wait for me to give you all my thoughts on Hunt the Villain. In the meantime, however, I decided to read her first series, which of course is the Royal Elite series. So I started with Rina Kent with her second generation series, her Legacy of Gods. So I want to read her entire backlist, so I figured, of course, let's start with her first series. So this is going to be me reading every single book, and it's going to be non-spoilery, but of course, like with some mild spoilers to explain plot points, but no major spoilers at all. And it took me quite a while to read this actually. So this vlog spans like the end of 2025 and goes into the beginning of 2026. Also, the first book that I read, Deviant King, I actually read for another vlog, Reading Obsessed MMC reading vlog, which I'll leave that linked for you. But to make it easier for you, I did insert the vlog clips for Deviant King in this video as well. I did edit it a bit, so it's a bit shorter than my thoughts in the Obsessed Hero vlog, but like the important parts I still kept in. And I would still encourage you to watch that vlog because I'm assuming if you love Rina Kent, you love Obsessed Possessive Hero, so that vlog will give you more books of similar type of heroes. So without further ado, let's cue to the vlog of me reading the Royal Elite series by Rina Kent. Starting Deviant King, right now I'm on page 164, and I actually grabbed Aidan and Elsa's son's book to kind of look at the family tree. So this is their son. Isn't he hot? Anyway. Eli, of course. But anyway, Deviant King. You follow Elsa and Aidan. This is single point of view story, so you only really get Elsa's point of view. And she recently got into Royal Elite School, and the name says it all. It's for the elite people that go there are the sons and daughters of politicians, of very rich people, and her past is not clear yet, but her parents have died. She lives with her aunt and uncle. And the first day she gets to this new school, the most popular boy in school, Deviant King, comes up to her, starts choking her, and tells her that he will destroy her. So that all happened 2 years ago, and now flash forward to current day, where she's being bullied severely by the whole school. Aidan really pays her no mind. She has this goal, she wants to go to Cambridge, so she just tries to get through her days and her senior year for her goal to get into Cambridge. So she only has one friend, somebody who's also severely bullied. Her name is Kim. She's gonna have, I'm very excited for her book, because her book sounds like a childhood friends to enemies to lovers romance, which I'm so excited about. Anyway, going back to Elsa and Aidan. So Elsa is being called Frozen. And not because of the Disney movie, but because she is cold as ice. She has very, very blonde hair. And when people bully her, she kind of lifts up her head and tries to pay them no mind. There's rumors about her being a teacher slut. So like she's being like, the bullying is pretty much out of hand. Like I said, when we get to 2 years later, she's 18 now. And like right away, honestly, so the stuff I just described, her getting to this new school, that was only chapter 1. And chapter 2, we already have the 2 years later. And like really fast after that, Aidan already shows interest. So one day, Elsa's following Kim and Xander, who's going to be Kim's love interest, the bully. Okay, so basically this school, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Aidan is a football player, or soccer for the Americans watching. Him and his 3 friends are like the 4 horsemen. They're the most popular boys in school. They're on the football team. And in fact, Aidan's cousin, who got the prequel book, is Levi, which of course he is Lan and Bran and Glenn's father. He is a famous football player playing for Arsenal. So that was fun. I'm definitely looking forward to his book too. She follows Xander and... Is his name Xander? Yeah, Xander. So she follows them, and Xander is pushing Kim's buttons. It seems like he's touching her, so Elsa is filming them, and then Aidan comes up to her wanting the phone, and she tries to keep the phone, so eventually she puts it in her bra, and he's like, you think that will stop me? So he basically like rips up her blouse and tries to get the phone, and then eventually Xander kind of gets in on it. Aidan tells him to hold her down while he is touching her. So definitely very much, like every other Rina Kent book, very much at the very least, dubious consent. So she has these scars like on her breast. She has a heart condition, and she doesn't remember what happened in her past. So the reader doesn't know where she got the scar from, and Aidan seems to be enamored with her scar. So after that incident, Aidan kind of starts stalking her, basically. He basically shows up where she is. Eventually he even shows up at her house, charming her aunt and uncle, because her aunt and uncle, they're pretty rich too, but not as rich as Aidan's family. And in fact, they have their own company, but the company is very much reliant on the King enterprise, which of course is Aidan's family's business. And he starts texting her, telling her all the things he wants to do with her, and she wants him to leave her alone because he is the reason people bully her. So that's pretty much where I am at now. He wants her to be his. He asks her that several times. Already there's like a scene where she's pretending to be Xander's girlfriend, and Aidan just loses it, okay? When he's normally like very calm and stoic, he ends up hitting Xander, so that was fun to watch. So I am enjoying it. I do have to say, so they have a trilogy. I truly don't understand why that is necessary. I have a feeling it has a lot to do with Elsa and her past is the reason why we're getting a trilogy. And of course, I have to believe that something in their romance will prevent them from actually having their HA at the end of this book. But I'm enjoying it. I really like Rina's writing style. I do have to say, in this book, you can definitely see, like, I really, like I said, I've always liked her writing style. I really love some of the quotes she has. But I do feel like at this point, she could have used a bit of an editor, because the amount of times she uses like the devil analogy or the hell analogy, and the way how repetitive that is kind of grating a bit. Like I felt like, okay, we get it. Okay, he's the devil and he's surrounded with demons. I get it now. You don't need to belabor the point. Okay, we get the analogy. We can stop now. But I mean, I'm giving her grace. I know where her writing will end up. So I'm fine with it. I do have to say, I really love seeing all the pairs, because like I said, I started with Legacy of Gods, which is a next generation series. So seeing all the parents, I really enjoy. So far, obviously, the people we've seen the most are, of course, Aidan and Elsa, but also Xander and Kimberly. And their story is definitely the one I'm looking forward to most. And what's funny is that their daughter is Cecily, who, of course, her book is one of my favorites. It's God of Wrath. So it would make sense that her parents' book would intrigue me the most. But to be honest, I was looking forward to that book before I realized who their daughter was. So yes, like I said, I'm enjoying it. I don't know if this is gonna be my one of my favorite Rina Kents. I don't think it's gonna be, because so far I've never, like, this is the first time I've seen her actually write a trilogy about one particular couple, and of course that is not what I'm used to from her. So we'll see how I feel about that. And actually I started tabbing. I don't know if you can see that. And I used the colors that I felt like fit the book. So that is fun. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue reading. Oh, and I do have to say, like, one other thing I wanted to say, this has really short chapters, and I'm always very intrigued to continue on. So the only reason I'm putting it down is because, it's not because the book is boring or anything, it's just because I said, okay, only 3 more chapters or only 4 more chapters. Because, I don't know, I like the way she ends pretty much every chapter on a tiny cliffhanger. And like I said, the chapters are very short, so it's very easy to say, okay, let's just add another chapter, especially if it ends on a cliffhanger. So I do enjoy that. So I'm having the best time reading about this guy's parents. And I'll check back with you later. All right, I figured since I tend to film at the very, like, I tend to have like two spots where I film, which one of them is my bed, to be fair. But I figured, you know what, let's just mix it up and let me talk to you, give you an update while I'm actually getting ready, because I have to film a couple videos. So I figured let's talk to you while I'm getting ready, you know. Okay, so I finished, also before I get started, my hair feels greasy ever since I've been using a new shampoo. And I would change the shampoo up, except it is so expensive. So anyway, you don't care about that. Let's move on. Okay. So I finished Deviant King yesterday. I wanted to update you yesterday, but I also wanted to sit with my thoughts for a bit. I wasn't sure really how I felt about it. Yeah, so I slept on it and now it's the next day and I feel like I have solidified my thoughts. So I'm gonna give it 4 stars. And I think the main I think this might have been a 5-star had this been one book. But since I know it's already gonna be, like, it's only 1/3 of their story, I don't know. I feel like I cannot give it 5 stars. Maybe once I finish their entire trilogy, I will change my mind and go back and change the rating. Although I don't think so. Because honestly, the story I'm looking forward to most is Kim and Xander's book. Anytime they're in a scene, I am just salivating at the thought of getting their story. So, and knowing that I need to read 2 other books first before I get to their story, when in a different timeline where this would have been just one book, I would have gotten their story like right away. I feel like that is kind of hindering my enjoyment a little bit. I didn't need to strain my hair that much. So let me change into a different outfit and put on some, oh no, wait. I'm all over the place. You can see that this is not something I'm used to. I'm gonna put on some moisturizer. Okay, so the book ends on a cliffhanger. I did buy the second book, but since I have other reading obligations, I cannot get to it right away. So as far as my thoughts are concerned, I did enjoy it. Everything I said in my first update still stands. I do have to say, I feel like in the second part, I felt like she did a little bit less, she repeated less, which I enjoyed, of course, considering that was one of the things that bothered me. The amount of time this guy used mine, I obviously really loved. You guys know I love that when a book does that. I do have to say, this guy reminds me a lot of Carter Mahoney. So aside from Killian, who obviously also reminded me of Carter, Aidan also really reminds me. I'm more in like the manipulative aspect of Carter. So if you, I mean, I don't know why you would actually want that in real life, but if you like that in like a anti-hero fictional MMC, I would say definitely pick this book up, because the way he, I don't know, it kind of, it's bad, obviously, I do realize that, but it is also entertaining when he's like, you know, you have to do this, otherwise I'm gonna, he kind of uses Elsa's friend against her, basically. So obviously she loves Kim, and she knows that Zeta, is his name Zeta? No. Oh my god. I just saw Xander, sorry, Xander, she knows Xander has something, like he's a, like, she thinks he wants to hurt her. Obviously, we know that that isn't, now maybe. But he's like, if you don't do this for me, then I'm gonna have Xander take Kim home and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just like that level of unhinged boggles the mind, really. But like I said, it is reminiscent of Carter, who also did similar things. 1 second. All right, I'm back. I changed, as you can see. Let's continue. Okay, so what was I saying? I'm sorry, this, I might not do this ever again, because this update is all over the place. So I did enjoy it. I like both characters. I did enjoy the fact that Elsa both knew when she could fight back and also knew when to kind of step down. After this book, there's still like a lot of mystery. Like, we still don't know what really happened to Elsa and her past. We still don't know what happened to Aidan. And it's funny to read this because obviously I have read their children's book. So, like, for example, Jonathan King, like, I'm not sure, but he just doesn't seem like a very good guy in this book. Whereas I mean, if it's the same Jonathan King, I know, like, what he will turn out to be. So, I mean, I know he will get his own books. I get that. I haven't read those yet. Overall, like I said, let's just get back. I did enjoy it. I like them together. I feel like she has enough of a spine to set up against him. This is also a single point of view, which I feel like works for this book. And I'm wondering if the next books in their trilogy will also be single point of view, because sometimes I am interested to get Aidan's thoughts, but for now, at least in this first book, it's interesting to only get her thoughts. What else? One thing I do have to say, and let me grab the book to explain it. So I feel like there's a lot of, obviously, chess. Like, there's chess pieces on the cover. Every chapter starts off with a chess piece. And they do mention chess a couple times. Like, he tells her, do you want to be the queen or do you want to be a pawn? But both of them apparently do love chess. So I would have loved like a chess playing scene. Hopefully we'll get that in another book. So there is a lot of talk about football, which you guys know. Oh, I mean, I don't know if you know, but I don't really love sports. I don't really watch sports except for whenever there's a World Cup or European Cup in football or soccer for the Americans watching. Then I get possessed by a football-loving ghost and I need to watch every single game. So that is like, of all the sports, that is the one sport I do know a bit about. So I did enjoy all that. So this obviously takes place in high school. To me, it doesn't really feel that way, like, at all. Like, it seems like if I compare them to the Legacy of Gods, it's like they're similar. They sound similar, and obviously it might have something to do with the fact that these are seniors, obviously, in high school, so that would make sense. Like, they're not too far off as far as age goes. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure they're 18, and the younger characters in Legacy of Gods were 19, so that makes sense. So this was just a solid, enjoyable time. I don't really have a lot of thoughts, but that is obviously because, well, for me, it feels like I don't really have a lot of thoughts because their story hasn't been told completely yet. So I'm interested to see where we left off on this book, what will happen, like especially what Elsa's gonna do, if her character is gonna change in any way. So yeah, I had a good time. And oh yeah, as far as the obsession is concerned, yes, this is definitely an obsessed hero. It's clear in almost everything he does, but also the way other people talk about it. Like, there are a couple scenes where other people have come up to Elsa and have told her, you know, he's been obsessed with you for years. So that is fun to read about. Also, obviously with obsession and obsessed heroes and possessive heroes, they're the same. The same kind of heroes that are obsessive usually also are possessive, and I did like all the possessive talk. Like, you're mine, even though you're not technically my girlfriend yet, you're still mine, you know, those shit. Like, I am a simple girl, I like simple things, and that is one thing I genuinely adore. So yes, oh my god, what happened? So yeah, I guess those are my thoughts. So I finished Seal Princess yesterday, and I cannot tell you a whole lot about it because obviously this is a sequel, a direct sequel to Deviant King, which I have right here. So like I said, I just cannot tell you a whole lot because you follow obviously the same couple. I am really sorry to say that this is a 2-star for me. It's my lowest rated Rina Kent. And my biggest thing about why this is a 2-star is this is the definition of this could have been an email. Like, if you really look at, so this is not a long book and it was still too long. So it was a bit over 300 pages, but the only actual interesting things that happened that had anything to do with the actual plot could have been told in like 50 pages. So in that case, this didn't need to be a trilogy. Like, obviously I've not read the 3rd book yet, but I have a feeling this could have easily been a duology, because this to me felt like it was just sex scene after sex scene after sex scene after sex scene. And I am not a prude. I like a good sex scene just as much as the next girl, but this just felt like filler. It didn't add anything to the overall plot. And like I said, some things did, but it wasn't 300 pages worth of anything to do with the plot. And yes, obviously some events happened in Deviant King that affected that relationship, but even those things, like the relationship development, it would still fit in that 50 pages that I have allotted it, because all the other things just, it went like, these two just went around in circles and circles. It was very repetitive. Everything about it was repetitive. And once again, like I said, it just didn't add anything to the plot, to their relationship. It was a bit boring, honestly. And I listened to this off and on while reading other books, and I think that is what saved it, because I think otherwise it would have been a 1 star. But since I wasn't too bothered about having to finish it at a certain time, and also the audiobook is a 10 out of 10 since it's a duet narrated audiobook with great narrators, which let me tell you who they are. Shane East and Kira Stevens. That is what made me give this book 2 stars, honestly. So I have not read the third yet, but I did really love Deviant King, and I'm like, my goal is to read all her books. So I'm not mad that I read it, but I am glad that for like her recent books, she is just doing 1 book per couple, because I do love those books. So we'll see. I know there are more, at least duologies, but maybe even trilogies in her backlist. But this one, I just felt like, I think if I read the third book, I will be able to conclude that a duology would have been fine for these two. Since there's like a lot of things in their background, and obviously the main character, Elsa, has amnesia, I don't think 1 book would have been enough for them. Well, maybe like a 500-page book. So I get why it was more than 1 book, but 3 books, especially having read this one, it was unnecessary. So yeah, I am excited to read the third book though, because it did leave off on a cliffhanger, just like the first one. So I'm not sure when I'll get around to it, because there's a lot of books I need to read for other vlogs. So I guess it doesn't matter for you, because while you're watching it, I have read every book in the series. So I guess I'll talk to you once I read the third book. And also the reason I didn't update you before is because, well, what could I say really? So for the third book, I probably also will not do a update halfway through, considering this is a trilogy and it's one entire story. So yeah, I'll talk to you when I finish, what's that third book called? Twisted Kingdom. So I finished Twisted Kingdom yesterday, and this is the third book in Elsa and Aiden's story, and it's the final one, which I'm glad about, because I am just really, really, really looking forward to reading Black Knight. So I cannot wait to pick this one up, which is Kimberly and Xander's story. So since this is the third book in their trilogy, I cannot really go too in-depth about this book, but I ended up giving it 4 stars. It's definitely leagues better than the second book, and this just solidified for me that this really did need to be a trilogy. Like this, I understand why it wasn't just 1 book, because these two, like their story is a bit complicated. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of plot things that are going on. A lot of things about the past that we need to talk about. So I get why it wasn't just 1 book, especially since back then she didn't used to write like giant books like God of Fury, which is like just over 500 pages. But I feel like this book, without, like, I don't want to go too much in detail, because like I said, I don't want to spoil it, but I feel like there was a lot of plot things that I was interested in. I was flipping the pages because I wanted to know what was going on. There was a lot of intrigue, a lot of fast-paced action that I was interested in, and it did do a good job, especially with setting up future couples like Xander and Kimberly for sure, but also the other 2 couples in this series. That just made me so excited to continue on with this series. Whereas I feel like, I already talked about book 2, I don't need to go too in depth And I felt like one thing that just keeps bothering me is I felt like I didn't really love Elsa. Not at all. I feel like she just wasn't communicating well at all. Like she didn't, just getting her to ask a question was like the biggest feat in the world. Like just, if she had just asked a couple direct questions to Aiden, then half of this book would have just been solved, and half of her annoyance with, like, and most of her annoyance with him and her issues with him would have been solved. And I'm not condoning what Aiden did at all, because, you know, he has his own issues, but at least for him it is explained, since he is a, like, sociopath. But for her, like, she had no excuse in my opinion. Yes, there was a lot going on. Yes, she has gone through a lot, but I feel like especially things with having to do with their relationship, there was no excuse for her to not just ask a couple questions. There were some plot things, even though I was intrigued and I was interested, that made no sense to me really. But I mean, I give this book grace considering it's one of her first books. And I mean, what do I know? Like I realized yesterday that this book she released in 2020, and it's 2020, well, by the time you're watching this, 2026, and she has released over like 30 books or something. And she's a very successful author. So like I said, what do I know? Also, the sun is saying hello. So I look like a ghost now. So yeah, like I said, since it's the third book, I cannot really tell you a whole lot. Overall, so I gave the first book 4 stars, I gave the second book 2 stars, and the third book 4 stars. So let me calculate an average. Yeah, so overall it's like a 3.3, so 3.5. And I guess I would classify like this couple and their books as a 3.5, which is sucky considering I know if this would have been a duology, it would have been a 4-star easily, since I did enjoy everything, like a lot of things that happened in the beginning of their story, and most of this book I did enjoy. I will keep praising the audiobook narrators. They did such a good job. I really love Shane East's voice. Like, he can read me his grocery store list and I would be riveted. So yeah, if it were up to me, I would read this right now, but I have a couple other books. By the time you're watching this, actually the end of 2025. So I don't want to read this because I have a feeling this is going to be one of my favorite books. I'm not sure, but just in case it might be, I want to just not, like, I already did my favorites video, so I'm reading books that I don't think are going to be favorites at the end of the year. But this is in my January TBR, so I will for sure read this in January. And I am interested to see when this book takes place, because in Legacy of Gods, all the books took place around the same time. I don't really have any preference, really, but you already know that there's something going on between these two in the background of this book and of the first book and second book, I guess. So yeah, I guess I'll talk to you once I am halfway through this book, considering all the other books in the series are not duologies or trilogies. They're just standalone books for the couple, so I can go a bit more in detail. But yeah. So I guess I'll talk to you in the new year. So I started and finished Black Knight. This is the 4th book in the Royal Elite series, and this was definitely the book I was looking forward to most while reading the first trilogy. And this is a standalone book, so you just follow the one couple for one book. And actually, this was my first book of the year. It's January 2nd now, so I started and finished it on January 1st. I tandem read this one, so I listened to the audiobook while reading it, and this book has the same narrators as the first trilogy. I'm pretty sure she uses the same narrators always, but I mean, I do enjoy those narrators. So this book, you follow Xander and Kim, and they used to be best friends when they were little. They're neighbors, they grew up together, and up until they were both 11, they were just the bestest friends, and like slowly inching towards becoming more, but of course they were just 11. She called him her knight, and she was like the queen, and they constantly played together. Whenever something bad was happening to them, the other was always there for them to help them through that. And then when they are 11, something happens that makes Xander hate Kim. Something she did. He's never forgiven her for that. And he's hated her ever since. And he still hates her by the time we get to this book. And you saw that in the first trilogy, which is why I was so intrigued. Like, you saw him constantly being around her. You saw him not wanting her to get close to other people. Yet he constantly lashed out at her. He hated her. He bullied her in a way, not as bad as other people, but like he just wasn't her friend anymore. That much was clear. In this book, they're still neighbors and things are like wrapping up. Like he wants to stay away from her, but he can't. This is a very heavy book, I do have to say. So it's only 300 pages. And she's dealing with a lot. Like, I feel like I don't know what happened to Rina's own mom, but the mothers I've read so far in this series are just the most awful human beings, let alone mothers out there. Like, and Kim has one such mother. Her mother is like this very creative, popular artist, I guess. And she only cares about her art. She doesn't care about her kids. And on top of that, she constantly fat shames Kim. She has scales like all around the house that she forces Kim to go on. And then whenever her weight is not up to the standards of the mom, she says awful things. So as you can see, if you have triggers surrounding your body or your weight, then be careful with this one, because I have those triggers. And yes, those parts were definitely rough. There's also eating disorder, alcoholism in here. So there's a lot of triggers. So check the trigger warning if you know you have them. Kim developed an eating disorder, which that was kind of clear from the first trilogy, from Elsa's trilogy, that, you know, there was a summer and when she came back, she lost a lot of weight. I assumed that was what it was, and it turned out to be the case. She has a little brother, and her little brother actually is very close to Xander. So he constantly goes over there, and then she has to fetch the brother, and then she has to interact with Xander, even though she doesn't want to. But Xan really loves Killian, I guess. Is that his name? No, it's not Killian. It is Kier. Xander is also going through a lot. So he's the one with the alcohol problem. So he like starts his day off with like vodka in his coffee. His mom left him when he was 9, I guess. And there's a scene, I guess we start the book off with that scene. His mom is leaving and he runs after her crying, saying, "Don't leave me." And she leaves anyway. So he's living alone with his father. And his father, they have a complicated relationship. He's not abusive at all, like not like Kim's mom, but they don't have the best relationship. His father is a politician and really doesn't have time for Xander, and he has like these high standards that Xan cannot meet. Going back to Kim, so her father is very loving. He loves her, but he's constantly away. Like he's a diplomat and he's constantly like in Brussels and everywhere else. So it seems like he doesn't know, like he knows his wife isn't like not the best person, but he doesn't know how abusive she really is. And this book follows Xan and Kim. Like she hates him, but she also finds him like the most beautiful man on the planet. And he is wishy-washy. Like whenever he's like too drunk to really think, he seems to want her. But whenever he sobers up, he's like, "Stay the fuck away from me, don't call my name," stuff like that. I do have to say, this book, even though it is a romance, yes, they do end up together, of course. But like now that I'm talking it through, in the romance department, most of this book revolves around them two and their issues and having to deal with their issues and like with their families. Not necessarily the romance. And it makes sense for the plot that is being told here. Like there's a couple of scenes with them doing things, with them being happy, but other than that, it is like full on, mostly around Kimberly and her. Oh, by the way, Kimberly cuts herself too, so there's self-mutilation here. Like there's a lot. It's a very heavy book. So it's like a lot of this book is revolved around Kimberly and her issues with her eating disorders and cutting herself, and like the awful dynamic between her and her mom. And it's about Xan and him dealing with the alcoholism and with his father. And there's like a thing between them, like a secret that he's keeping. So having said all that, I gave it 4 stars. I do feel like, and I'm usually not one to say that, but this is a very short book. It's like 309 pages. I feel like this book could have benefited from being 100 pages longer. And that shows in Rina's other books, even like in her later books. Even in books where there's a lot going on with the main character, like even if like there's mental health going on or other things, she still finds the time to highlight the relationship too. And I feel like that is because those books are a bit longer. Like her newer books are between 400 and 500 pages, whereas this one's only 300. So I do feel like if we had 100 extra pages of their romance, it would have felt a bit more balanced as a romance, and therefore I would have probably given it a higher rating, especially considering I was so looking forward to their book. Like I feel like they as a couple were more interesting in Elsa's trilogy as opposed to their own, because a lot of this just wasn't about them as a couple or about their, like, them interacting, I guess. I did enjoy it, but I guess like for the way I was salivating for this book, I just assumed it was going to be 5 stars, which is one of the reasons why I started the year off with this book. So it's 4 stars, obviously not bad. I appreciate them as a couple. Obviously they are the parents of Cecily, which she has one of my favorite books. The third book, God of Wrath, was one of my favorite in the Legacy of Gods, and Cecily I really loved, and these are her parents. So yeah, I enjoyed this book. I just prefer, at the end of the day, I prefer like a couple story be told in one book, but I just wish the book was longer. I am looking forward to the other books. I feel like Cole's story is very well set up, but also Ronan's. So since we never really got Ronan's son's book, I'm looking forward to watching his romance. So I am looking forward to continuing. Hopefully I can get to the next book in January, but my January is pretty packed. So we'll have to see. But it doesn't matter for this vlog because you're gonna see the next book anyway. So yes, I'll talk to you once I guess, hopefully once I either started the next book or maybe finished it, considering that is what I'm seem to be doing in this vlog, but we'll see. So I started and finished Vicious Prince by Rina Kent. And I have to tell you before well, let me give you the synopsis first. Then I'm gonna tell you what I thought I would think about this book. And then I'm gonna give you my actual thoughts. So this is the 4th book. Is it the 4th book? The 5th book in the Royal Elite series. And this book you follow Ronan and Teal. And they have been set up in the last book. Ronan, he's obviously like royalty. He is the son of an earl. And his father wants to marry him off to somebody. At first, he wants to marry him off to Elsa. But of course, Elsa already has a boyfriend. So Teal volunteers to, marry Ronan instead. But it seems like she doesn't like him. It seems like she doesn't really like anyone, but especially Ronan sometimes, like, somehow grates on her nerves. He's obviously like very outgoing, very loud. He's friends with everybody. He laughs all the time, and she's kind of grumpy. She really is not a people person. The only reason she actually has friends is because they are her siblings, and she's a bit standoffish. So this is definitely a opposites attract romance for sure. And he really doesn't want to be engaged to her, but he doesn't want to be the one to end the engagement. So he kind of wants to persuade her to end the engagement while they spend time together, because obviously their friends are friends. He seems to be more intrigued by her. He also finds out that she's into like some kinky stuff that he never really explored with anybody else. So that also he finds very fascinating. Like slowly but surely they both realize, okay, maybe I don't want the other person to end up with other people. But Teal seems to be keeping a secret that has something to do with Ronan. That is basically the plot. I have to tell you, first of all, before I even tell you my thoughts, definitely check your triggers, because there is a very, very big one. It does say it in the author's note, so keep that in mind. It's a big trigger, so definitely check your triggers. I at first thought this was going to be my least favorite. Ronan, I mean, he was not really my favorite character. I don't really tend to love MMCs who are this clownish. His son in the Legacy of Gods also is not really my favorite. Teal I liked more, but I didn't really have that big of an opinion on her, considering we don't really get to see her all that much, and since she is so standoffish, you don't really get a read on her. But I ended up giving this book 5 stars. I love this book. It's my favorite in the series so far. I thought she did such a good job with this book. First of all, I have come to realize with Rina Kent that there are a particular type of FMCs that she writes that I tend to enjoy more than other FMCs. So Teal, she fights back. She's a fighter. She doesn't take things lying down. She's not a meek, quiet heroine. If something doesn't suit her, she will fight back. And if the MMC especially does something that frustrates her or she doesn't agree with, she will fight back 10 times harder. Like, she reminded me of Dahlia in that way from Beautiful Venom. Whereas I feel like Elsa and even Kim, in a way, they don't really fight back. Like, they let their MMCs just walk all over them. And I prefer FMCs that don't do that. And yes, obviously, she's more in luck with Ronan, considering obviously he's not as domineering as Xander and Aiden were. But in this book, you find out there's more to him than meets the eye. And if she was a meeker heroine, he would have waltzed all over her. So I do tend to prefer my Rina Kent FMCs if they have a good spine and are not afraid to fight fire with fire. So Teal is definitely such a character. Like, even when he's like simple things, like, I'm gonna have a threesome with these two girls. Like, he says that to threaten her, and she's like, well, I have a list of guys that I can call. And like, she says it like she means it too. So I did enjoy that. That is one of the aspects that I really loved. Second of all, and this sounds a bit messed up, but bear with me, I prefer it in her books especially if the MMC is some sort of like sociopath or psychopath, or there's something about him but I prefer it if it stems from trauma and not because he was born that way. Like, for example, with Aiden, he's obviously like a psychopath, sociopath. Like, he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't have real like emotions like other people do. And yes, he has some trauma too, but I feel like he is just that way. Whereas with Ronan, and I don't want to spoil it, but obviously it has something to do with the trigger, he's the way he is in this book because of his trauma. And I just find that a more interesting thing to explore than, oh, he was just born that way. I can still love books that have that, but I find, like, for example, with God of War, the reason that is one of my favorite books is because, what's the hero in that book? Jeremy. The reason he's the way he is because of something traumatic that happened in his past. And the same goes for Ronan. I just prefer that. And like I said, obviously that's personal preference. I get it if some people don't want to read about that, but I really love this book. I flew through it. The audiobook, as always in this series, or I believe it's for every Rina Kent. Like, I want to go back and reread The Legacy of Gods and listen to those as audiobooks as well. This was a 10 out of 10 again, I think. Let me actually... Shane East, I believe. Shane East and Kira Stevens, they narrate, so far they've narrated every book, and I've listened to every book, and I love them. I adore them. I think they do a fantastic job. So yeah, I just had a very good time. 5 stars, like I said, my favorite in this series. I can definitely see myself rereading it. I enjoyed both of them. I really love their story, and I just loved it. Like, what can I say? I just really, really enjoyed this book. And I also... like is a big word, but I also enjoyed the plot in here. Like, I liked Teal finding out what her secret is, finding out her plan for revenge, I guess. But also about Ronan and really figuring out, because like I said, he was not a character I enjoyed very much. And in this book, it kind of explains why I felt that way. And I liked how she did that in this book. So yes, very much enjoyed this. So I still have to read 2 more. I have to still read Ruthless Empire, which I believe is Nash and Silver's book. And then I need to go back and read Cruel King again. I hadn't read that yet because I actually read Deviant King for another vlog, which, I mean, you've already seen the clips of that. So yeah, very excited. So as of filming this, it's January 29th. I want to upload this video in March. So I still need to, like, the second 2 books, like the last 2 books I still need to read for this vlog, I need to read in February. So I think I can do that. I'm very excited about them. I think I'll love the last book as well, Ruthless Empire. And for Cruel King, I really love the kids of the couple of that book. I really love their books. So yeah, we'll see what I think about their parents' book. But that is neither, I mean, you're going to find out in a couple seconds. I still need to wait about a month. No, a little bit less than a month to find that out. So yes, 5 stars. Exciting. So I started and finished Ruthless Empire, which is the 6th book in the Royal Elite, which is the last one that I still needed to finish. But I still need to read the prequel, which I will do that. This is finally Cole and Silver's book. They have been set up from the very beginning. I've been looking forward to their story for a while now, so I'm glad we finally got it. So they are step siblings. Their parents got married, but they obviously, all these people have known each other, have grown up together. Cole and Silver have always like kind of skirted around each other, and it seemed like they would get together, but of course that all got thwarted when their parents became a thing. So now they live in the same house, but Cole really can't keep his distance, and she technically can't either. And when they were little, he made her promise to give him all her first. And she says, you know, I'll only do that if you give me mine too. So while they're living together, they do end up sleeping together. And both of them are very jealous whenever the other one seems to be doing stuff with members of the opposite sex. And of course, throughout a part of this book, Silver and Aiden are engaged to be married. And this book actually takes place throughout, like it starts off before the events of the first book, and it takes place throughout the rest of the series, really. So technically you can read this one without having read the other ones, but Rina just touches briefly on the scenes we see a bit more in depth in the other ones. So I would say read them in order of publication date. I enjoyed this book. I do have to say, I think I expected a bit more out of it since it was teased so very much. I feel like Silver was not what I expected her to be, and in a way it was good, but and then in the other, I don't know, I feel like she was a bit weaker than I wanted her to be. Also, her father obviously is a politician, and they are from the Tory party, which, I mean, would I have expected anything else? But of course I was rolling my eyes at that. I don't live in the UK, but I know that I would never vote for the Tories if I lived there. So that was kind of annoying. But I did like Cole. He was an interesting character. I loved how he constantly pushed her buttons and how he got her out of her shell, really. But I do have to say, I feel that this series, and even though this is one of the longer books in the series, I feel like the books are a bit too short because I just wanted, with some scenes, I just wanted a bit more. Like, for example, he owns a sex club, which we've seen that sex club in like another book in this series. And I understood in that book why that was just a one and done scene. Whereas in this book, since he owned this club and they went frequently, I wanted more scenes of them experimenting and her exploring her sexuality a bit more. So that I was kind of annoyed that we didn't get that. Also, something bothered me here so I gave it 4 stars. I don't know if I said, but something having to do with the villain also kind of bothered me. And I cannot talk about it without spoiling it. So I have a note about this entire series that I want to spoil, but I'll leave that towards the very end of this vlog. But the reason I gave it 4 stars very much has to do with that. So I think I'll just leave it for the spoiler section. So stay tuned if you have read the series and want to know my thoughts. I once again listened to this while reading it, and once again the audiobook narrators did a fantastic job. Also, the villain gets a POV in this book. The villain is called the Doll Master, and the way the male narrator did the voice for the Doll Master creeped me the fuck out. So I would highly recommend listening to the audiobook while reading these books, because I just love Rina Kent's audiobooks. She does such, her audiobooks are god tier audiobooks in my opinion. So yeah, I am glad that I read this one. And what I also really loved is, obviously I read Legacy of Gods, so I'm going back, of course, to read the earlier works. But we get a scene, like the second epilogue, we get Ava being born, and we get the scene of Levi kissing her, which that was so cute. I loved seeing them, and I loved Aiden baiting Cole while that was happening, and that it made me want to read Legacy of Gods again, which I do plan on. Like, once I get through Rina's entire backlist, I do want to reread Legacy of Gods. So that's gonna take a while for me to get to that. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, of course, but it's not my favorite in the series. So I guess I'll do my tier ranking for this series when I finish my final book, which I'm very excited to read, Cruel King, which I'm currently reading a novella right now for like a palate cleanser, and then I'm gonna start this. I'm very excited. Once again, I will be listening to the audiobook, and I'm really excited about this one because their kids, so Levi and Astrid's kids' books, are some of my favorite in this series. Of course, their kids are Bran, Len, and Lyndon, so very excited. So I guess I'll talk to you once I finish this, I guess, unless
I don't know. I don't think I want to update you before. I don't know. Maybe since it's a prequel, I can update you halfway through, but I don't know. You'll know in a couple seconds what I decide to do. So I read and finished Cruel King, and this is technically the prequel. So obviously I decided to read it at the very end. This book, of course, you follow Levi and Astrid, and you do see them in the other books, but since they are 1 year older than the rest of the gang, and they are, even though yes, they're friends, of course, but they're not part of like the Four Horsemen and stuff like that, you're fine to just wait and read this at the very end. But Levi and Astrid, they get in contact when during like this party, she ends up getting drugged, and that makes her like very turned on. So she ends up in a room with Levi, and they start something until he realizes that she's on drugs. So he makes her leave. And on that night, she gets hit by a car. And she doesn't remember what happened, but she wants to figure out what actually happened. And he ends up realizing that. So he wants her to stop investigating. He wants her to stop looking into what happened to her. And he doesn't mind threatening her or coercing her to get her to stop investigating. But she's not easily deterred. So whenever he threatens her, whenever he does something, like ruin something of hers, she hits back tenfold. And that is what I love about these like darker romances. Whenever there's a hero, an MMC who's unwilling to bend, I need for the FMC to be just as ruthless, just as determined, and just as unbreakable as the MMC. While they are like spending this time together, he realizes that he finds her fascinating, and he ends up developing feelings, and this obviously will be their romance. This, to me, even though I did describe it as a dark romance, it is the least dark out of all of them. This read more like a sports romance. Levi is a football player. Of course, he's the captain in this book, since it takes place before the other books. That is his goal in life. He doesn't want to go into business with Jonathan King. But of course, his uncle doesn't want him to, like he wants him to start his business basically, or to work for his business. So we do focus a bit more on the football aspect, which of course I loved. The reason Levi lives with Jonathan is because his own parents died. Or no, I believe his mother left them and his father died, yes. And Astrid, her mom died. And now she lives with her father and her stepmom and her stepsister. And she doesn't feel at home really because her mom didn't have a lot of money. And now she lives in this posh house. She's not even allowed to call her father dad. She has to call him father. It's clear her stepmom doesn't want her there. Her stepsister treats her horribly as well. So the only person she can turn to is her best friend Dan. And, of course, eventually it's her romance with Levi. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I had a great time reading this. I really love these two together. I like that it was a bit less dark than the other books. Like I said in my earlier update, I just had a feeling I was going to love this because I really love their kids' stories. I love Glyndon's book. I love Brandon's book, of course. So I just had a great time reading this book. One annoying thing in this book, I do have to say, is, and Rina does that sometimes, like with some of the girls in the Legacy of Gods, like one of them is obsessed with the color purple, that it's like her entire personality. Astrid is obsessed with Vikings, which is cute, but the amount of time this girl uses the phrase in her head, "for the love of Vikings," at one point, that got annoying to me. Like, that is a bit unrealistic. Like, I cannot believe there's somebody out there who is obsessed with Vikings this much that they would use that phrase. Like, I liked how she loved the TV show and how she compared Levi to a Viking. That was all cute, but whenever she used the phrase "for the love of Vikings," that was just annoying to me. Having said that, that was the only annoying thing about this book. Like, I flew through this book. I had a great time. I really loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. And yes, you can read this book, obviously, without having read the other ones. And I do think in hindsight, I would recommend you read it that way. I would say start with this one and then get into Deviant King, Seal Princess, Twisted Kingdom, so on and so forth. But I had a great time. Also, I finished with the Epilogue novella, which, in my opinion, this is really not necessary at all. You follow the couples, all the couples in this series, through their proposals, their weddings, their pregnancies, and then you have this one night where all of them spend this night together with all of their kids. A lot of what's in this book is actually already in the original novels at the very end, like in the epilogues, with like 2 epilogues added for each couple. But a lot of this book I had already read, so that to me was unnecessary. And also, but I do have to say, I did really love that one night with all of them and the kids, because I love Legacy of God so much. So I did love seeing most of the characters in that series as little kids, and you got to see glimpses of their personality already, and I thought that was so adorable and so cute. So, and I feel like that scene, like the part 5, is ultimately what made me give it 5 stars or 4 stars. But I think if you don't have a lot of money to buy these books, I would say this is one you can easily skip without missing anything really. But it was a good time. I do love these couples, so it, like, if I can get any extra scenes, I will always opt for that option. But this didn't give me anything I didn't already get from the original books or what I will ultimately get from the Legacy of God. So yeah, 4 stars, a great way to pass the time. And of course, this I listened to primarily through audiobook, and I did enjoy it. So let's do my tier ranking. Okay, so my least favorite book should come as no surprise, because it's the only Rina Kent I ever gave 2 stars, and it's Steel Princess. I'm not gonna give you all my thoughts in this tier ranking, because obviously I already gave them to you, like with every book I read. So 2 stars, Steel Princess, my least favorite of the bunch. And then the rest of the books I actually gave either 4 or 5 stars. So let me think a bit. Wait, let me actually do the tier ranking for myself, and then I'm gonna come back. All right, so Steel Princess. Then my least favorite 4 stars was the Royal Elite Epilogue. Technically this should have been like a 3.5, but I mean, I gave it 4 stars, so there we go. Then there is Twisted Kingdom, the 3rd book in the Elsa and Aiden story. To me, the fact that this was a trilogy just made me love this couple and these books a bit less. Then Deviant King goes in 5th place. 4th place goes to Black Knight, which is Kim and Xander's book. 3rd place goes to Ruthless Empire, which is like my highest rated 4 stars, which of course is Cole and Silver's book. Now moving on to the 5 stars. 2nd place goes to Vicious Prince, which is Ronan and Teal's book, which this book really, really surprised me out of all of them. And then my favorite Royal Elite book and my favorite couple is Cruel King, which of course is Levi and Astrid's book. So that is my tier ranking. And I am really happy I read this series. And at the end of the day, let me actually give you my final average rating, because it is pretty high, I do have to say. It's a 4-star average rating, which is good since I gave one of them 2 stars. So I did have a good time. I will be reading the rest of the Rina Kent books. Let me know if you want more vlogs, because I love vlogging her books. I have vlogged, so far I've vlogged every single book I read by her. So if it's up to me, I will vlog every series, but let me know if you would want that. And I'm going to be reading them in order of publication date. So the next one, like the next duology I'll read will be Jonathan King's duology. And I'm very excited about that one because it has been pretty well set up. And of course, I've seen him and his FMC in The Legacy of God. So I am interested to get his romance. So yes, if you've read this series, let me know all your thoughts. Give me your tier ranking for this series. And if not, have I convinced you to read this? Let me know all your thoughts. And if you've read more Rina Kent books, I would really love to know what are your favorite Rina Kents. Because so far, I've only read this entire series and Legacy of the Gods and any other book she's published since Legacy of Gods. So I have read Kiss the Villain and the Vipers series so far, like the 2 books in the Viper series. So I am keeping up with her new releases, but of course there's a giant backlist that I still need to read. But like I said, I would really love to know some of your favorites. If you want to say that you are here, but you don't want to leave an actual comment or written comment, leave me a football emoji for like the amount of football we've seen. And for the Americans watching, I do mean a soccer ball. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know by leaving a like if you did. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay, so this is the spoiler section. And what I really wanted to talk about in this part is, okay, so most of the villains in this series turned out to be the mothers of the characters of these books. And like in the beginning, it was interesting because obviously we don't really get to see a whole lot of that in fiction, really. It's usually obviously a stranger or like an ex, or I don't know. It's not usually not the mother. So in the beginning, I felt it was a bit refreshing that it was like the mother that turned out to be the villain. But I feel like it happened one too many times in this series. Like I genuinely, and I don't know Rina, but I genuinely started to think, especially by the time I was reading Ruthless Empire, and even before that, I was really starting to think, no, really in Ruthless Empire, because what's her name? Cynthia in this book was also really annoying. I was starting to think that Rina has some serious mommy issues for like the amount of time the mother turned out to be the villain in this book. And it happened here again. To make Cole's mother the doll master, I don't know. Like, I feel like it would have been very interesting had that been the one and only time a mother turned out to be the villain. And I do have to say, I didn't see it coming because there were no clues whatsoever that Helen turned out to be the doll master. Like, I knew it obviously wasn't Adam. That was clear to me. But I honestly thought it was Frederick or something, or somebody that was a part of her dad's campaign and a person that she had to go to whenever she needed to change her phone number or something. But for it to be Helen, another mother, once again, I don't know. Like, it got old. Like, even though I didn't see it coming, I probably should have, considering it's always the mother, right? So obviously in Elsa and Aiden's book, Elsa's mother was the villain, so we knew that. In Black Knight, Cicely's mother was a piece of shit, okay? And she was the worst character in that book. Xander's mom just left him. So only in Vicious Prince does he have a good mom. Yeah. Because even her mom was just a whore who whored out her kids. So anyway, obviously with The Legacy of Gods, which was the only series I finished, obviously she couldn't make the mothers villains considering there are heroines from this series. But I really hope that in the rest of the books, it's not constantly the mothers being the evil bitches, because I don't know if I can handle that. But I guess we'll see. Obviously, I'm still reading this series, and I do plan to read the rest of Rina's books, of course. But I don't know. I feel like I've had enough of these mothers being either the villains or just awful mothers. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Definitely let me know if you've read this series or any other Rina Kent books, what you think of like the amount of time she makes the mothers the bad guys, I guess. So anyway, let me know that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.